Hey everybody, Nickolas Wildstar, candidate for Q&A with yours truly. And this time I'm speaking with my man Darryl Cotton of 151 Farms.
Hi, Nickolas. How are you, buddy?
Very well. Thank you for being here with me, Darryl, to talk with me more about what's going on, you know?
Pleasure's mine. You're starting to get a little bit more noticed. There's so many good things happening right now for your campaign. I'm excited for you, and I'm excited to play whatever little part in it I can.
Oh, thank you very much. Hey, we all got to come together as a community to make this happen, you know?
Indeed, we do. It's my pleasure to take a little walk back in time. And, you know, I am a reluctant activist when it comes to medical cannabis, but I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in liberty and the pursuit of everything that the Constitution grants us without the encumbrances of excessive law, policing, or, you know, unjust interpretation of those laws. So I've really admired what you've done over the years, and the parallels and similarities to what you've gone through and where you're going with your campaign in terms of repealing 64 remind me a lot of what my old friend Dennis Perrone endured back in the 90s. With that, I've got a really, really long time OG friend of mine. His name's Wayne Justmann on the phone. He's having a little hard time accessing the podcast, but he's going to be with us in audio. And Wayne was a dear friend with Dennis Perrone's. He's from San Francisco. He endured what happened with, you know, cannabis law prior to 96, and Prop 215 didn't exist. There was nothing in California or the United States that allowed us entry into medical cannabis patients' access. So it's with my great pleasure and honor, I'd like to introduce you to Wayne Justmann. Wayne, this is Nickolas Wildstar.
Hello there, Wayne.
It's my pleasure to join both you and Darryl. I am so terribly sorry that my computer education was finished at the kindergarten level. And I believe it's just a situation. I don't know what buttons to push or things like that, but I'll get that problem straightened out.
Oh, we'll do it. We'll do it again. But Wayne, can you tell us a little bit about you know, what happened in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and let's go back to the time where, you know, cannabis was truly something that got you prison sentences. And what your purpose was to try to make life easy on the medical cannabis patient, primarily in and around the AIDS patients. Can you go into that a little bit for us?
Yeah, it was unfortunate to see what Harry Anslinger, Hearst, and a few other people attempted to do as far as controlling Hispanics and other minorities. They wanted to control Hispanics, but one of the things they thought, especially in California and Mexico, wait a minute, if we control something that they like, it's cannabis, let's make sure that we do something about that. So we saw in the 30s, early 40s, attempts by our government to criminalize cannabis. And they did a pretty efficient job, not only here in the United States of America, but they tied the drug use, specifically cannabis, to a lot of trade recommendations and trade agreements that they had with other parts of the world. And other parts of the world, if you do use cannabis, they can kill you for that.
Right.
And that's next to insanity. But that was so effective. And now what we have to do with leaders that we have with here in this program are folks that say, you know, Proposition 64 is not working. It wouldn't have worked 30 years ago, and it's not going to work now. We've got to throw these things away, because anyone that thought about the use of cannabis in the 60s, and the 70s, and 80s, that was immediate arrest, and depending if you cultivated it or distributed it essentially, that could have been a prison sentence. We don't need to do that to our fellow citizens related to a plant.
You know, I love your passion, and Nick has the same passion. He has promised, and quote me, tell me if I'm quoting you wrong here, but you want to repeal Prop 64 on your first day in office, Nick?
I certainly would love to. I mean,
yeah, he's on record as wanting to repeal it his first day, Wayne.
Has to be done. It truly has to be done. So I think I feel badly for my fellow citizens out here who don't read laws, and when they go to vote, are they familiar with the individuals they're voting for, the propositions that they're voting for? But all I hear when people say, yeah, we want to legalize cannabis because they realize it's not as destructive as alcohol or tobacco. We have wine and other spirits out here that folks use. We don't need to have cannabis as some kind of a boogeyman. And unfortunately, that's what happened in many aspects.
Guys, Wayne's, what are you, about 75, Wayne?
76.
76 years old.
I live near a hospital.
Oh,
and we're going to name it. It's just going by me. You were at my 75th birthday. I've cannabis since I was 28 years of age. I was diagnosed HIV positive in 88. So for the last 33 years, all of my medical doctors, my cardiologists, HIV, everyone has been on board with my use of cannabis and their understanding of this particular plant.
How does it compare today to back in the 70s and 80s? Now, we passed Prop 215. You, Dennis, Pebbles, Trippett, many of you are in and around that time experienced a very succinct way of putting medical cannabis to the legislature, to the voters, and then it was enacted into law. But would you say that the hope and dreams of the youth at the time, the Vietnam War in the 70s and 80s, this all lent itself to a sense of, we can create compassion and good out of this? And indeed, you did do that with Brownie Mary and your San Francisco Buyers Club. How does the period from them to now, how does it relate? Is there any connotations between them that you can still draw the line, or is it an entirely different scenario?
I really think so, Darryl. Here's the thing. At age 18, 1963, I was able to go to the University of Northern Iowa, in Cedar Falls, Iowa, for that fall, 1963. Also true in 1963, the United States Draft Board asked me to come down and register for the Selective Service. So before I got my college degree, I got a draft card. And of course, I'm talking in 63, 4, 5, 6, 7, the real meat years of the Vietnam War that was going on. And I am with every other man and some women in our school. We're wondering what's happening to our future. We get our degree and will we move on? And we also, I had relatives and other friends that served in Nam, and I was concerned about their well-being. And just that level of uncertainty that we really didn't need. And one of the things that I believe, and I know on the college campuses, I was on a college campus from 63 to 67, individuals had now introducing cannabis to the social scene. Alcohol obviously was there. Beer was obviously there. But now and again, I'm talking 63, that's a lot of years ago.
But it was free. It was freely shared, right? It was part of the culture.
Yeah, it was just here. Listen, let's share this and enjoy this.
Yeah.
And that was the first experience that we needed so much in that time. And then when the Vietnam War really got into the late 60s and the 70s, then you got the protests on the college campuses. Not only were we protesting the war, but as you said, they're taking our freedoms away.
Yeah.
And you have to protest that.
And Nickolas is quite a bit younger than either of us. What are you, Nick? About 37?
Actually, I'll be celebrating my 40th birthday.
Wow, you age well here, young man.
Oh, so thank you very much.
He's 40 years old, but he has got the passion. I've heard him argue with judges and police and everything else, how our liberties cannot be stripped away by a stroke of the pen. What happens is this indifference that people have. We didn't have that in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And if there is any radical opposition today, it tends to come down as breaking windows, burning cars, and stealing big screens. Those aren't the answers then. They certainly aren't the answers now. So we're looking for political force that has a clear magnetic north understanding of what has to happen when illegal laws are passed. So can you tell us a little bit more, though, that period in the 80s and 90s where you had the AIDS patients? What were you seeing firsthand, Wayne, in terms of how the patients were impacted with medical cannabis?
We were seeing sick and dying people, Darryl.
Yep.
That we're seeing sick and dying people. And how they're easily recognized the wasting syndrome that hits so many of these individuals. Like a KS on their bodies, on their face, on their arms.
Horrible.
We saw that. And what was so tragic before the San Francisco Cannabis Buyers Club or any dispensary, the Lord's Club, the Tenderloin. This is where people in San Francisco have to go to possibly get access to cannabis. Now, one, they don't know what will they get it. Two, they don't know who they're buying it from. They don't know the quality. And all the unknowns, yet they don't really have a lot of options. And they were finding, just as myself, when I find out, these first drugs that people with HIV and AIDS took, or the AZT and ZER and things like that. I know visiting with many of the patients at 1434 Market Street, the Buyers Club. We didn't know if the medicine was going to kill us or the virus. That's how it was at that time. And the only savior that we had, the only lifeboat that we had was cannabis. Now, Brownie Mary understood that. That's why she made the brownies, brought them into, from Marin County, brought them into San Francisco General. That's why Jack Hara certainly made it an issue. He was very, very supportive of hemp as well, but he had great access to Dennis and myself and his advice on cannabis, and so that was the heart of what had to be done. Just like this, Nick and yourself, some people realize that there's a problem and they attempt to do something about it.
Hear, hear.
Myself, Dennis, and Mary, we solved a problem and had to do something about it. And for us, to myself especially, this is a simple plant with medical benefits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people should have access to this.
So we kind of did a complete 180 then between what was accepted under Prop 215 to what we're living under since 2016 forward with the passage of Prop 64. It's been a monopolization.
Yeah.
The commercialization.
And people is not, I've talked to a lot of people, not only here, but through the country and various, people believe legalization means that folks should have a simple access to the plant. But what happens is they don't read the small print on how is this going to affect the grower, the distributor, the cannabis operator. What is the effect that they're going to have, on their line of the business in the cannabis industry. And 64 certainly is not the answer. But one of the things, if we can review on Proposition 215, Darryl, and Nick, for your situation, 251 words is Proposition 215. 251 words. Now, it simply says that a California resident with the doctor's written or oral recommendation and or approval can possess and cultivate cannabis in the state of California.
Simple.
That's the compassionate use act. The reason why I say that in the manner that I did, Darryl, and that we could possess and cultivate cannabis. You notice something that was missing from that?
What's that?
Didn't say how much or where.
All right.
You see, that's the argument that we wanted to avoid. We've got to get people, sick and dying individuals, with the doctor's recommendation or approval, access to cannabis.
Exactly.
You can grow it or you can possess it. We just didn't say how much or where, because I think that we back in 1995 and 6, when we were putting those words together, we'd know that there'd be kind of a, quote, silly argument that states have now. Well, you can only grow 2 plants, you can grow 4 plants, you have to have coverage. We didn't want to do that.
You had great foresight there.
The problem with that to me is it still turns over control.
You want Dennis and Murray. These are smart people.
Yes.
I mean,
well, he was also an activist beyond cannabis, gay rights, and he was very much opposed to the Vietnam War. So at those times in our country's history, Dennis was a very important person. He even took it upon himself to run for governor. I think he lost to Dan Lundgren. But nonetheless, you were there. You lived through that, and you saw the benefits, the medical benefits. The science seems to be catching up. You have Dr. Raphael Mechoulam in Israel and others showing the benefits as an antioxidant and neuroprotectant as cannabinoids go. And there's still a lot of work and research to be done. So what would you say to the people today, Wayne, that say Prop 64 can be fixed based on what you saw in Prop 215? How would you respond to that?
Okay, I think that, okay, if you feel that Proposition 64 can be fixed, I will give you a suggestion on how to fix it. Get rid of it in its entirety. Now, if you
that's your job, Nick.
And some way there, or let's patch it over here. Well, it can work here. No, then what you're doing is plugging up a dam that's going to continue to leak.
Exactly.
So get rid of it entirely. And if people say, well, we need something, well, all right, let's sit down and figure out what may be needed, because 215 was doing very, very well until 3 non-smoking individuals are targeted. He's a wine drinker, anyway.
But let me say this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. Would you say there's been a divide in the cannabis community over whether or not to accept Prop 64? And if so, why?
You know,
that's a good question.
That's an interesting question. I thank you for bringing that up to you. Those of us that were involved in medical cannabis in, let's say, 1990, here in San Francisco, and also through the Bay Area, because there wasn't a lot going on outside of the Bay Area. A little bit in Los Angeles, West Hollywood, but now they're going as far as medical use was concerned. And we're trying to, how do we address that issue? And we've got to make sure that we educate individuals about what medical cannabis is, has access to it, and then you've got to provide access to it. And that was the thing that in the early 90s, and one of the things we talked a little bit about Dennis, a couple of things I want to bring up. You talked about him being a Vietnam veteran. He was. He served in Vietnam. But our police force didn't like that gay hippie that smoked marijuana. And that's what the police department in the early 90s saw Dennis Perone as. Not a veteran of the war.
No.
But a gay hippie that smoked marijuana.
Yeah.
And so they didn't like him enough, and we were talking about that area. They didn't like it enough that one day, not just knocking on his door, and they shot him in his legs as he was going up the stairs.
Oh my God.
That's what we faced from, because they knew not only Jones was a gay hippie, but he was representing medical marijuana. And there are people that did not like that. And so folks, you've got to remove that entirely. And I just look at the 64 cold people and say, do you really understand what you are supporting?
And isn't it convenient that they flip a switch and one day they're shooting Dennis Perone at the top of the stairs and he's an advocate for medical cannabis, which will lead me to which is your opinion of how Dennis felt about quote unquote recreational cannabis. But right now I'm holding up a certificate of honor that the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco presented to Dennis. Can you tell us a little bit about that day? I was honored myself to be there. What happened to that day? Was that the culmination of their recognition of his contributions to medical cannabis?
Dennis was in the last year of his death. He was in the last year of his life. Hard for him to get around, to chat, et cetera, et cetera. But Dennis's mind was there. I mean, he might not have been able to get around or something like that, but I know his mind was there. My communication and all the other people had communication. And what was interesting, the city, up until that time, took no action at all to recognize Dennis or even Brownie Mary or Jack or anyone that really puts San Francisco in the direct headlines as far as the work that they're doing with medical cannabis is concerned. And it had to be done. I mean, what option did these elected officials and law enforcement have when sick and dying people are showing up at the hospitals, showing up at the residential facilities? You've got to work with them. You see them on the bus. You see them at the stores. And unfortunately, like I said, that they're wasting away because of this wasting syndrome that so many people had.
Yeah.
They had to do something. And what was fortunate for us at that time, we had some pretty good people that knew what the hell we wanted to have done and how not necessarily to convince the other side of our opinions, but expose our thoughts and reasoning to help them understand their disapproval or their reasoning on how we could quote, move them over to quote our side. 76% of San Francisco voted for Proposition 215 in 1996. 64% of the state of California, 56% rather, of the state of California voted for Proposition 215. So even then, I'm not sure how well it was understood. But the 90s were, America was starting to find itself. I think even the world,
yep.
They were trying to see themselves. What's this really about, and the like.
As a governor, though, you have a lot of disparate communities in these counties, in these big cities. So what could happen in San Francisco might not happen in San Diego, I can assure you. So as Nick goes forward and is elected, he's speaking for all the citizens of California. And to repeal 64 is doing so based on it being an illegal initiative. You know, it contradicts higher federal law, and it forces you to get involved in a for-profit recreational licensing scheme. And that scheme has been incredibly abusive to the social equity, Black, Brown, and Asian communities. What we saw in San Francisco under Prop 215 should be, I think, the beacon as to what we needed to do. We carved the path for this, Wayne. I mean, you and Jack and Dennis and all these others. And to carry that on, we need somebody that has an understanding of where we were with 215 and where we need to go going forward. So I blame the lobbyists to a large degree and the political oligarchy that's constantly taking that money and not caring, not having the compassion that you had in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And here we are today, where even with the licenses would say they're unsatisfied with the way things have gone under control, tax, and regulate cannabis, Prop 64 AMA. So I really appreciate you coming out on that. But there's still a large contingent that feels it should and could be saved. And again, you don't feel that's possible?
No, I believe that there are folks out there that have just fooled themselves. And let me make a comment, please, if I might add. These organizations that you spoke of, Marijuana Policy Project, Drug Policy Alliance, other organizations, national, local, and the law. I attended a lot of their meetings in the 80s and the 90s out here. They were worried about, quote, the war on drugs, because they talked about that a lot, but they didn't say anything about the solution. But they wanted money. Well, if we had a dispensary operator, oh, you could send them money. But then I'm wondering, what are you all doing with it? We're out here. We don't need money when we walk into our city hall or we walk the streets of San Francisco and protest and the like. And we don't, you know, and that's what they're doing. And I look at all the years and what did you actually, drug policy, all these wonderful, they're good organizations, they got well-meaning people, but what the hell have you accomplished?
True.
Not very, very much.
No.
It took a group of people, sick and dying people here in San Francisco, to raise enough hell and concern and volume to say this plant helps sick and dying people, and we should have access to grow it and to possess it at any time. It's a plant. And I think that Nick understands that, and as long as we get this thing continually improved, and then also too, don't need rules and regulations and oversight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Recently talking with some of my friends down in Los Angeles, an equity program. This is something in your ballpark. I'm sure you've heard of the equity program for computers, cannabis operators. Have you not, please?
Mm-hmm.
What he's asking you if you've personally been involved in any of the social equity licensing projects that are done on a city-by-city basis, Nick.
No, I have not.
See, that's kind of in his defense, unless you're applying for that license, you wouldn't realize just how fucked up that process is. They put black people in the front of the line to make it look like it's a social equity application, but I'm willing to say something over and around 90% of those applications are funded by white people that are putting them in as a straw person in an effort to monopolize the industry. And it's really, it's tragic what we're seeing.
That's an area that has to be addressed. You know, there's folks in Los Angeles who legitimately, minority women, minority men are putting together, you know, been attempting to put together a social security program. 2.5 years.
Yeah, they drag it out.
A lot of money out.
Yeah.
But you know, the door is not open for you or I to go through and say, hey, thank you for being here. And I get some cannabis.
Wayne, Nick's got the right idea. You get in there and you repeal it. And if there is any pushback, I mean, you can do so under a nullification or executive order. I'm not sure what the differences are, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a big pushback from those that are licensed or in the license application process. Our solution has been that if you have the license and you want to maintain it, you have to simply acknowledge that you are knowingly violating higher federal law. And then those that are in the application process can either get their money back or have to swear that they understand they're violating higher federal law and they're not going to be protected under a for-profit licensing scheme that runs opposite of the Controlled Substance Act. So Prop 64 said there was no positive conflict when in reality there is. But going back to Dennis, let's say he were here with us today. I recall, you know, getting to write on his behalf, his Facebook page, and try to educate people about 64. But the one thing we agreed on, even though, and Wayne was involved in these conversations while he was alive and prior to the vote on November of 2016, I would try to craft informational posts that would describe the issues in Prop 64 that the medical cannabis patient would have to deal with. And 99% of the time, people were unaware that was in there because it was a long and complex bill. But the long and short of it is, how would Dennis respond to recreational cannabis if he were here today, Wayne?
All use of cannabis is medical.
All cannabis is medical.
Exactly.
And he's well known for that. And it hadn't been for his drive and your drive and Brownie Mary's and Pebbles and Jack's and all these people that we stand on the shoulders of today, we wouldn't have cannabis, which right now they hit a switch and it's going to be recreational for profit, but it's overtaxed, it's overburdened, it violates our constitutional rights as it digs into our lives and creates regulations that change from day to day. Nickolas Wildstar is prepared to undo that. We can go back to co-ops and collectives. We should do that.
Absolutely.
You know, when I go into the medical, I was in Mobile yesterday and wanted to get some cannabis. I did not distinguish here, though, if it was medical or recreational. I wanted the particular kind of indica sativa, this level of cannabis. Again, all use of cannabis is medical.
All use of cannabis is medical, yes.
And to throw recreational, that word in there, is there such a thing as a recreational beer? Somebody help.
I would say, I would call it medical beer. I don't know. But you hit on something earlier. It's organic. It's, you know, a product of the earth. It's not synthetic. It helps treat a variety of neurodegenerative diseases, and the science is catching up with that on a daily basis with peer-reviewed papers. The benefits of THC on starving blood to cancer cells, for example, recently released. And this is all peer-reviewed, so we're learning more. But why is it that it has to be monopolized? Why is it that the process requiring social equity is so fraught with fraud.
Exactly.
These are the problems that the political, those that we put into office have to contend with. We cannot give this to our children.
Right.
I think greed is something that is motivating people now in the cannabis industry. If you look at how many Canadian banks and other financial people years ago dumped a whole lot of money into grows or other kinds of a situation, and they didn't get the payoff that they thought they would.
No, they're not making money like they thought they would.
No. I wanted to actually address a few things that
just saw it differently. What was interesting, and let me also say, at 1444 Market Street, we probably, during the day, we probably had about 100 people on staff at that time, with security people packaging, doing all of these things.
It was quite an operation.
Wow.
Here's the thing that really may shock some of your listeners. None of them were paid.
None of them were paid. And you gave a lot away.
Everyone that was there did not receive a paycheck. Now, let me say this.
People working for
cannabis, you got cannabis.
If you needed it, you got it.
That's it. Then also, too, if you needed money for rent, you needed money on something, go see Dennis personally, talk to him, he'll straighten it out.
He had such a huge heart.
That's just what it was for all of us. And for myself and so many others, you did it because, first of all, it's the right thing to do. And Nick, this is the way, please understand, sir, what you're doing in overturning 64 is the right thing to do.
Hear, hear.
You're looking for the cases such as myself and folks all over the world. We've got to get this right. Otherwise, we're going to sink in our own stupidity.
Exactly.
How can we help Nick more? Nick, what do you need? And tell us a little bit about your campaign and what brought you to this.
Well, my father is actually a military veteran and had suffered from PTSD. Still does to this day. And although now he's taking a lot of, big pharma medications to help treat that. During the time he was with me in my care, I actually introduced him to cannabis as a treatment, and it made it much better for him. Even sometimes when he would visit, because he was living in Wisconsin and would come out here to visit me, would ask me to help, get some products for him, CBD or cannabis, to help treat himself. So it's sad that we do have a government that refuses to acknowledge the medical benefits of marijuana and cannabis, and continues to.
I think they will accept it when it's a prescription, something that they can control.
Exactly, so, that's what I'll just say.
To your point, I think they're not opposed to it, as long as it can be managed under the patent that they have in place for antioxidant and neuroprotectant values. But then that takes it away from the people.
Yeah, well, now that's the case because, they see the benefits from it as far as making money, opposed to back then, when Dennis Perrone and, Wayne here and all of you guys were involved in fighting for at least initiating the acknowledgement of, its medical benefits.
Who was behind 215? Who financed that, Wayne? Where'd the money come from? George Soros? Did I hear you correctly?
Was not a contributor. Locally, we really did well throughout the state as far as the money that was needed. And one of the things, we spent it wisely because we knew we were limited and we didn't have millions of dollars. But what we had to be effective at. How do we put it out there? Where do we push it and things of this nature?
Exactly.
So, the very George Soros that would go on to support financing for Prop 64. And when you pass Prop 64, it takes an initiative to replace an initiative. So what happened to 215, Wayne, when 64 passed?
people flushed it down the toilet.
It basically went down the toilet.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Nickolas Wildstar is our plumber.
Exactly.
Who I know people are getting older, so those from around your time, and thank God you're with us. I see OG Eddie left. I was up and saw him, and Sandra was on the show the other day. She can't even grow enough cannabis to treat Eddie, Wayne. I mean, and that to me is just criminal. The helicopters fly over so low, she can see the color of their socks they're wearing. So to me, it's a military operation designed to intimidate and threaten the farms that are being raided because the farmers refuse to get involved in an illegal initiative that forces you to violate higher federal law, I believe are the patriots today. And we need a person like Nickolas to come in and set that magnetic north again. It's not too late.
I was born on a farm. I'm from Dubuque, Iowa. We didn't need any regulators or something like that to come through our property and to count the chickens or see how much corn we were growing or what water we were using, what vegetables. We didn't need to do that.
No. But you do raise a good point here, Wayne. Now, the law is forcing a lot of these grows to be greenhouse or indoor. So you might have 1,000 square foot of canopy. Where's that water coming from? Where's that power coming from? It's done just the opposite. As stewards of the land and those that would protect our environment, it's forcing the cannabis cultivator to violate Mother Nature.
Yeah, now you need more resources.
As you just follow other counties, Sonoma, Napa, the ones just around us, throughout our state, are having water problems, shutting down this, how the basins are really at its lowest level right now because of the drought.
I can't believe it.
How to figure out how we can use grow cannabis in a dry area. From what I understand, California, parts of it can be considered a desert.
Yes.
We've got to figure out how to work in this climate so it's efficient. The power, the water, all of nature, we've got to find it more efficient. And we're not going to learn it wasting our time fooling around with such things as 64 or Proposition 19 many years ago, et cetera, et cetera. We have a very simple guide, Proposition 215.
I agree. We need to rip 64 up and go back to co-ops and collectives and incentivize the energy and water savings, which are under current controls, anything but. I mean, they are an absolute devastation to our environment, and we're seeing that. Like Oroville and all these reservoirs, they're down to 30% in the mid-June.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with these high temps?
Exactly.
Nick's got some good ideas on this too. So this all parlays into his full focus on what he'll do almost immediately. Because Nick, you only have about a year in office on the recall side, right?
Yes, exactly. Whoever takes office in this recall election only has a year in office to make, significant changes in the state to validate their reelection in 2022. Next year,
would you try to win the seat again in 22 and 22?
Of course, I would hope that my first year in office will prove to the people of California as to why I should be reelected. Since I won't be campaigning over the next year, I'll be focusing on doing the job as governor. So that's why I'm saying if I can make these immediate changes on day one, that way people can enjoy the benefits of, the rules being off the books, because
we have a plan to transition from regulated under 64 to less regulated under 215, because you would undo an illegal initiative with 64, you would revert back to 215. And if it's challenged in court, it's a countersuit. Nickolas Wildstar could actually countersue based on the citizens of California who have been harmed by Prop 64, and that would be everybody that had a license application and never got their
the people of California.
Yeah, the people.
If I might add, too, guys,
of course,
something that the board did not address, and it occurs to us every year: wildfires in the state of California and how they affect the grows that are by them. We have no insurance for our crops of people who cultivate cannabis, none whatsoever. Yet, nature, if it's a fire on their property or close to it, and then the shit, et cetera, that will fall onto their property the next 2 or 3 inches of dirt and other things of that nature. We haven't done anything about that. I'm dumbfounded by that. We're in an agricultural area. We've got a really cheap product in cannabis, and we have no insurance for it.
No.
I'm mystified by that.
And no banking. You can't bank through traditional banking.
Oh, no. It's illegal gains.
Yep.
Oh, my, it's illegal gains.
Well, there you go. That what Wayne you're describing is the positive conflict, which is also indicated in IRS Code Section 280E, which doesn't allow you to deduct normal business expenses because it has cannabis. So there's a lot of positive conflicts, and in my opinion, and every lawyer I've talked to, they say, well, this is too hypothetical, Cotton. I go, well, it's not hypothetical because, listen, they can cut your water supply off if it's coming from the Colorado River, and the Bureau of Reclamation is within their right to do so because it's aiding and abetting growing a federally illegal crop. For crying out loud, Nickolas is in the right when he does this.
Yeah.
California helping alleviate medical problems. A facility called CHAMP at 194 Church Street. They took that site when Dennis and I we moved to 1444 Market Street. Here's the point. They couldn't deduct any business expenses at all, business expenses. And what did the government do but throw them in a tax situation,
Yep.
Which ultimately had the dispensary closed. And I'll tell you, probably one of the better dispensaries in the 90s that patients needed at that time.
Yep.
They came there because they had nowhere else to go because how they looked, or because of their economic situation, or because they were HIV/AIDS, or they had dots on their face, the KS, etc. Nowhere to go except the dispensary, which, see, there are folks like me there. There are folks I can talk about being sick this morning.
What do you know about the Cole memo?
The who?
The Cole memo, COLE, that the federal government initiated to tell federal prosecutors when and when not to prosecute cannabis-related crimes. It would have came out in the Obama administration.
They're trying to do that. I'm familiar with that. What their efforts are. With the federal government, I don't see these state governments wanting to give up this tax money.
But before you had that, you had the Cole memo, and the Cole memo was very specific. It was saying that if the state has a medical cannabis program that is allowing people to be in compliance with their law, the prosecutors had discretion whether or not to federally prosecute them. And nowhere in the Controlled Substance Act is that discretion allowed. I know prosecutors are given that liberty, discretion, but at the end of the day, there is a divide between medical and any argument that there's recreational, and medical should always come first, in my humble opinion. Being a patient myself, and you have how many years now on medical cannabis?
I've been 33 years.
33 years.
Wow.
God bless you, Wayne. What do you think? What do you think all this, Nick?
Well, after listening to everything, it upsets me even more that government has been trying to control this substance this entire time. I mean, it's a plant. To me, its growth and cultivation is no different than any other type of plant, whether it be moringa or aloe vera, different plants that have medical benefits, but you don't see them scrutinizing the growth of those plants and regulating them as much as they do cannabis, and it mainly has to do with profit control. They want to be able to say who gets the money and how much and when. And it's sad that now, because the bigger corporations are involved and are able to make money from it, they of course want to change the rules, but fix it to where they're the ones benefiting from it. What you were saying about, where Wayne was saying about, our veterans getting treatment for it. Like I said, my father was actually, being treated for it. He had to come all the way from Wisconsin to California to, receive those medical treatments.
How long ago was that?
Maybe about 5-6 years ago. Yeah.
Is he still with us, or did he pass?
He is. Yes, he's doing much better now. He lives in the Philippines, where they really do not allow marijuana, and that's what I'm saying. Since then, he's become more dependent.
He's a convert.
What's that?
He's a cannabis convert.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, because he kept having to travel between Wisconsin and California. He just stayed home and at some point became more dependent on the pharmaceutical drugs being given to him by doctors.
But as
So,
Wayne said, it's a quality of life improvement. So even patients with
yes,
ALS, they're not going to come out of it, but it is a way to come out of the remaining days with a quality of life that's not unbearable. Would I have that right, Wayne?
oh yeah, he's okay.
Who came into our dispensaries and dentists, all we could do is hug them.
Y'all can hug them.
That's all we could do is hug them. Hug them. They do their entire too, and all we could do is maybe try to make them a little bit more comfortable.
Yep.
That's what I think cannabis has done for so many people. I
Right.
saw the relief done, and especially, let me give you an example. Chemotherapy just roars the hell out of your body. Some of our patients would have chemotherapy. It started at 8:30 in the morning at General Hospital. By about 11 o'clock when we opened, they would be over at our dispensary. I mean, feeling absolutely terrible.
Wrecked.
They didn't want to go home to a single room occupancy hotel or some shelter. No, they came over to the dispensary. Why? Well, one, they're going to get some compassion. They're going to get people who listen to you without judging you, who won't worry about how much money you have, or why do you look the way that you do, or dress the way that you do.
Right.
And when they finally felt better, we would say, can we get you something now? And in those days, for people who were wasting away, Ensure or some kind of a protein product was very, very helpful. We provided that for them.
But they took it away from you, the IRS, right?
And when they felt well enough, cannabis. Now, what do you want in that form? Do you want a cookie? We didn't have a lot of things in 1993
Right.
offer them. You want a cookie? Do you want some tincture? We only had one offer, tincture. Or do you want flower, the cannabis itself? Because I saw these people respond to this plant. I saw this happen. I don't need a book to convince the other people of the world about this. That's not necessary. People who have compassion and have shared this plant with others have seen it and shared it with others. That's the greatest thing that you and Darryl and myself and Chad and Mary and all of the people have done. With Terrence Hammond, there's a lot of people I could talk about.
But you did get shut down based on a tax liability, right? Eventually?
So I don't see this being taxed.
Me either. That's the problem. It's a nonprofit.
If I could be blunt, I could look up some old footage. I saw Dad here, Brownie Mary, the Dennis Stallone say, fuck paying taxes on cannabis.
Yeah, you're paying taxes on somebody who's dying's back. I mean, if Nickolas Wildstar, if you'd have been around there, you would have been front and center at these arguments. I've heard him argue in court.
Oh yeah.
So one last thing I'd like to get out before we go on is SB 519 is going to allow the medical use of hallucinogenics. That's due to be heard last reading in early July. When that happens, we're going to say that hallucinogenics can be given medical status in California, but cannabis doesn't get protected. And all the work that happened on 215 forward, I disagree. I think it's time you get away from 64 recreational for profit, bring back co-ops and collectives, and bring cannabis into the medical sphere that it was started, meant to be, and should have been maintained. While all these years we've been lied to about cannabis and hallucinogenics, now you're about to make hallucinogenics legal for medical use too? Come on. We've been lied to. Nickolas, can you fix this?
Absolutely, with nullification. That's one thing that I want you guys to know is the governor does have power to just wipe these bad laws off the books, and the federal government is just going to have to fall in place. Just recently, Greg Abbott, who's the governor of Texas, made this comment on this tweet. I just signed a resolution asserting Texas sovereignty under the 10th Amendment over all powers not granted to the federal government by the U.S. Constitution. So That's letting the federal government know to stay in this place and not to encroach upon the powers of the state. That's what I'll be letting our federal government know as governor, is whatever state law is in California, that's state law in California. The federal government has no jurisdiction, so they won't be busting up co-ops or, arresting patients or any of that while I'm in office. And that's just going to be the way that it is, and as far as taxation, like I said, it's more so shifting our government, our state government, to a non-taxpayer revenue model. That way it isn't dependent upon taxpayers in order for it to, be in operation. And we can stop taxing people for marijuana. We can stop taxing people for water usage in the state. We can stop taxing people for working, and earning an income for themselves. So my plan is to cancel taxes while in office, 1 year of no taxes in the state, and allow people of California to continue to generate that wealth. I mean, what I was talking about, the people of California also suffering from Prop 64. Just look at this headline. California wants to pay $100 million in stimulus to the marijuana, to the failing marijuana industry.
Throwing money at failed programs has been the normal recipe in this state across the country for many, many years.
Yeah, but like you just pointed out, had government not been involved in the first place, this wouldn't have been necessary, So
not to mention all cannabis revenues in this state, both fees, licensing fees, assessments, taxes, whenever they're doing raids, asset abatement, all that money goes into a special trust fund. It doesn't even go into the general fund where it can be audited. So that becomes Gavin's piggy bank. So when was the last time in California that we had a governor recalled?
In 2003. And when we did, we recalled Gray Davis, another Democrat.
Gray Davis. What happened to Gray Davis? What really led to his downfall, guys? Remember?
It was his mismanagement of the
Enron.
Yeah, the power.
They had a mark-to-market. They had fancy accounting that hid the books, just like that they're doing with cannabis on the special trust fund, which, by the way, is language in 64. They say they're going to do it, and frankly, that's what they did. So if you want to look at where the state's receiving and spending money under cannabis, you don't have third-party accounting on that. You don't even know. I mean, honestly, if you haven't had a criminal enterprise going since at least Kamala Harris forward, I don't know what other definition you have for ongoing criminal enterprise. This is it.
And that's why I'm saying that on day one, we'll also conduct that public audit. Transparency is key. And if we know what's going on, where all of our money has been going this entire time, maybe for the past 5 years, look at the books that are off record. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to expose some corruption and mismanaging and misappropriation of funds, all that good stuff. In which case, that's when criminal charges will, kick into play, and some of these officials start to be arrested and, face criminal charges because of it. They should, they are.
What do you think the number one thing the voter has to do today when casting their vote? What's the number one responsibility they?
For me, I think it's being more informed.
But Nick,
of course, I'm a threat to the establishment, and everything that I'm talking about here, you would think would be golden. I'm a black man, I'm a Republican, and I get no play. Constitutional carry. I'm pushing for, nullification of Prop 64 and what is it? Getting rid of
environmental laws, incentives for the agricultural industry. That's a big one.
Yeah, I have an aggressive criminal justice reform plan, ending qualified immunity, ending the police Bill of Rights, requiring liability insurance. They don't even want to talk about any of this stuff, So it's up to the people of the community informing.
And the people of the community up against, such as, let's say, Caitlyn Jenner, new to politics. At least I know you ran for Fresno mayor, right?
This
Third,
is my
okay.
third political campaign. I also ran for Fullerton City Council, and so
And
yeah.
do you see your numbers inching up over time as people get used to hearing from you?
Oh yeah, each and every time. This is the golden opportunity to our hands, back into our hands where it belongs, because of was people power in action. We were able to gather enough signatures to recall Newsom. So now, if we can get enough voters if we hit the polls and vote for that candidate, then we can get them in office with the plurality. We don't have to win the majority, and
that's right.
there isn't any head-to-head election after this. It's winner takes all. So if everyone,
you're not defined as a Republican. I mean, what would you define yourself as? I know your handle is Republican, but you're not the traditional Republican by any stretch of the imagination.
No, if anything, I'm more of a traditional Republican. I mean, especially if you look at what the Republicans are now, they're not small government. They're not about limited taxation. They're not about or hell, Abraham Lincoln used to promote, or Frederick Douglass, one of our nation's.
You're your own Republican.
Exactly. I'm more of a libertarian Republican, a Ron Paul Republican, because I see the benefits of libertarianism. But I also support our constitutional republic and think we need to have some structured government to perform, the societal needs that we demand from those people. But
who does he remind you of, Nick or Wayne? Who does he remind you of?
Oh, this is this young man?
Yeah.
Chris Daly.
Who is that?
In San Francisco. And he went against the grain a lot. And he was such a great supporter of Proposition 215 and everything we were doing here. And you need people who maybe have to go against the odds sometimes. But if they are able to explain their position, that sounds reasonable, and that people can understand, there's that education thing. I think it's beneficial for them. Now, one of the things if I could insert this for you, if you can get into some of these cannabis dispensaries between now and whenever, and get an opportunity to present your opinions with a little Q&A. I know that here in San Francisco, there are about 3 or 4 dispensaries. I think that would be beneficial to listening to you and meeting you as well, and also to drawing financial and other kinds of support for your campaign.
That's what you need. You need some help there. And I think like what Wayne's saying is, even though they're licensed, they're not making any money. And the regulation is such that they're not even having fun anymore. And when riots occur and they're targeting a dispensary, it's basically robbery with the police sitting up against their car watching it happen. Because cannabis is a second-class citizen. They don't even, while it's considered essential because of the tax revenues, the business people and their customers and employees are considered, based on their actions, non-essential.
Exactly.
That's the beauty.
Yeah, it's cannabis. That's the easy thing. Well, they use marijuana, and that's it. They don't have to explain. That's just tragic. That truly is tragic.
I suggest that in the future. I know you've got Wolf Siegel scheduled. I was hoping to get Pebbles and Dave Armstrong and others, but I love the format where somebody like Wayne's involved and will get his stream working. And, believe me, when you hear somebody like Wayne helping you moderate through this, Nick, it's just going to give you more ammunition for whatever fire you take in these debates.
Excellent. Please do, indeed. I mean, I'm enjoying having the opportunity to just listen to the people of the community, because that's the one thing about these, candidates as well as public officials, is they claim that they know what we want, but they rarely listen and hear out the people that they claim to represent. So
they completely ignore you. They're beholden to the big lobbyists, and that's the problem. So term limits, that's one of the things. We've got to look at ways to reinvigorate democracy and representative democracy. And right now, the path we're going on, I don't want to leave this to our children.
Right, precisely. And neither do I. I mean, with me being a new father myself and doing my best to lay down that foundation, I don't want to be passing on debt to my child, my own personal debt. I definitely don't want the government doing it for me, So like what Peter is saying here, with the past year to what's happened to the businesses, in the working class here in the state, the best way to get things going is to eliminate the taxes, allow people to keep their own money since they're the generators of the economy here in the state.
Well, it would incentivize people going back to work too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and you can't do that with,
gross.
giving away taxpayers' money as a UBI, a universal basic income, and then guising it as a stimulus payment. It's not stimulating our economy at all when it's putting us deeper into debt. So if people understood the basic concept of how the borrow and spend part of government works and how it puts we the people more so in that position of having to be responsible for that debt, then I think people would argue against what the government is doing right now. So
no, you're a breath of fresh air on that.
Thank you. I plan on continue to speaking up about these issues, and I thank you for helping me spread the word, as well as Wayne and everyone that you're connecting me with, because it's just helping that outreach. And if we can just get more people in the know and get them activated, motivated to show up at the voting booths, then I think that's where we can make a true change here in the state of California. So we can do it again.
We did
it with Prop 215. That was before my time, and I appreciate you guys being ambassadors of that. But I'm trying to put the final nail in the coffin here with sealing the deal.
Well, like you said, if the voters are educated, then this is their opportunity to look past the media presence. Caitlin's getting all that presence, and
right.
These are to take these matters seriously. I know you had Adam Papagiano on the other day, and he admits right out in the interview he has no intention of getting elected, and he's there because it's a joke. Well, exactly. You put him in a spot, and we appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure. Hey, I take this seriously because I feel like, if anything, what you guys were doing with spearheading the change for marijuana here in the state, it was serious. People were dying then, people are dying now. And it's that serious to where we need to start beating the drums, pounding the pavement, hitting the streets, and letting our representatives know that we are taking this situation seriously enough to where we're going to remove Gavin Newsom from power, and we're going to elect somebody that's going to be beholden to us and us only, because we want those changes now. We're not going to wait another year. We're not going to wait 5 years or 4 years, whatever the case may be. And with this pandemic panic that's happened over the past year, it should be a red flag to us that we need to take, time is of the essence, and we need to take advantage of the moment.
Well, you got some of us silverbacks to cover you on this. Wayne, what do you think? Is this somebody we can help?
So what I'd like to suggest to him, if and when he has an opportunity to visit the Bay Area, I and many friends would like to help him set up some visits to these dispensaries, because I don't think there's any better place for him to get his message across other than in dispensaries where you've got people who are actively using cannabis and making an impact on their community.
Yep.
We posted so many, it's important for elected officials that want to get to see their people to talk about this, and I know we can be helpful.
I think so too. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm glad to participate in this conversation and this dialogue. It's ongoing. We'll keep trying to put people in there. We'll make a meaningful difference to your campaign and their contribution to medical cannabis. So
thank you so much. I appreciate you both, and let's definitely speak again soon. You guys take care. All right, peace and blessings, fellas. All right, you guys, that again was my man Darryl Cotton and Wayne, who is a fighter for the medicinal marijuana movement out here in California, and was one of the people that helped spearhead that process with the creation of Prop 215. So we want to keep that fight going by ending the conglomerate takeover through Prop 64. If you guys haven't done your research about what that legislation has done in our state, it's basically commercialized, takeover of Prop 64. So check it out, and please spread the word, because as I said during this broadcast, as well as many others, immediately on day one, I get elected governor of California, I will be nullifying Prop 64, allowing California to get back to use compassionate use of medicinal marijuana. And hey, if you want to use it recreationally, that's your choice. You know what I'm saying? But allow those people that want to be able to obtain it under, a medical use to be able to do so and be protected legally. That way there isn't any other issues. But as far as governor making a stand against the federal government, trust and believe you have my word and you have my loyalty in doing exactly that. Okay. I do have a few questions I want to answer before I get out of here. Wow, they're just rolling in. All right. I got my man Tom Shaw says donate to Wildstar. Yes, please do. Thank you, Tom, who just recently made a donation to himself. So please continue to contribute whatever you can. Thank you so much, Tom, for giving to the Wildstar campaign. Right now, I'm offering for anybody that gives $25, we'll get one of these wonderful lawn signs that are going to be coming soon to put outside of your house and business and all of that good stuff to put the word out there about why people should vote Wildstar. So yes, please make a contribution for $25 today. I'm trying to reach 5,000. I just need $5,000 to cover my basic filing fees to get on the ballot, to make sure all of the people of California have an opportunity to elect Wildstar for governor. So I want to lock in that spot as soon as possible. The special election here in California could possibly happen as soon as August, late August. So it's creeping up soon and we need to move fast. We have a small window of opportunity and we want to take advantage of it so we can get through to the finish line here, okay? Because the people of California have done something historical here. We can seal the deal by electing the first Black governor of California and the first liberator as well, because I am completely anti-government. Just look at my record and you will find that out. Thank you very much, Peter. I truly appreciate it. It says another point that interests me is jury nullification. We need courts to be more responsible and allow due process to be carried out properly. Shouldn't, as it should be, offered to all juries as an option when they are instructed of their responsibilities. I will make jury nullification be something that all jurors are informed of when they serve jury in the state of California. Trust and believe. I will make that change immediately on day one as governor of California. Did you win that? He said case I had going on to hold them accountable. I did not. I actually was charged and found guilty of contempt of court, and I'm battling those charges right now for recording my own court case and being charged contempt of court, criminal charges that I have faced a potential 6 years in jail for. Thankfully, I didn't get sentenced that, but was instead sentenced community service, about $600-700 in fines and parole and all that good stuff. So I right now am going through the process of fighting those charges in court. So if you want to help me do so, because I am appealing them, and if I win the appeal, then hey, fantastic. Now me and all of the people of California will be able to continue to record our elected officials and hold them accountable, whether it be in the courthouse or city hall or anywhere else. And that's what we want. We want to be able to protect our rights here as citizens in the state. So if you want to help me in doing so, head on over to gofundme.com/freewildstar. You can find out more about my story, what I'm talking about here, and find out how you can make a contribution to help bring back liberty in the state of California with our legal system and winning that battle, you know. My man Peter says he's running for Secretary of State in Arizona, and with the spotlight on the past election, how do we convince people that voting is the way to make the changes they wish to have those they will want leading in office? Well, if you're running for Secretary of State, that's a great platform and position to talk about how you would be making electoral changes were you to be elected as an official. You know, Let people know that you plan on implementing ranked choice voting. Let people know that you plan on implementing sporadic forensic audits. You know what I'm saying? All of this stuff. Use that as an opportunity to reinforce in people about how they can be confident in our electoral system if they are confident in electing you to make sure that those changes come about. I think that's what I'm attempting to do as a candidate for governor of California. You gotta let people know as much as you want those changes, you can go with the other guys. You're not gonna get it. With me, you're going to get it 100%. And there won't be any backing down from that promise. And, you know, with you being a representative of those people, that's going to be getting you elected. I think that's the biggest thing that they want to be rest assured in. It's just in knowing that you're not going to be a sellout. You know what I'm saying? So yes, please definitely keep spreading the word. My man Kester Lyons says, do you need help with canvassing for your campaign? Yes, I do. Thank you for asking. Head on over to my website, Wildstar2022.com. Fill out a pledge card for me, Kester. If you're anywhere in the state of California, I do need help in making sure that we go door to door, introduce my campaign to people, call them on the phones, do phone banking. I just want anybody and everybody in the state to know about my campaign. And the only way that that's going to happen is with people power. You know, the major candidates that are running that have millions of dollars in campaign funds, that's what they're doing. They're paying people to do all of that for them. So if you want to help me, and no, I don't have the money right now, but you know that we have a chance at winning the state if we put our pedal to the metal here. And you want to help in that effort, then do like my man Kester Lyons. Head on over to my website, Wildstar2022.com. Fill out a pledge card so you can get involved in helping spread the word about Wildstar for governor, okay? All cannabis use is medicinal, even if it's not your intent. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Even people that are using it for what they claim to, or what they've labeled now recreational, like Wayne pointed out, how do you recreationally drink beer? You know, you're letting these people that you hire and put into a position with your vote tell you about your lifestyle, your habits, and dictate that with their labeling by telling you what you're doing is recreational. No, it's just my pastime choice of pastime pleasure of my choice, and it's none of your business. Okay. Now, if I'm ingesting something that also has medical benefits at the same time, then that's wonderful. You know, there's people who ingest things all the time that are not healthy for them, yet you don't see the government trying to tell them that they can't do that. You know, you can't go to McDonald's, you can't, consume foods with high fructose corn syrup or aspartame or any of those deadly, dangerous additives in foods right now. They don't stop that. If anything, they've given it a green light. So we want to stop the harmful production of products. Then we have to make sure that we're holding our elected officials accountable. That starts first with making sure that you have a governor like me in place to do so. Waiting on Biden's helicopter money, I'll send you. Please do. I'll take it, my man. I appreciate it. Sharing. Thank you. Sharing is free. All you have to do is share any of these videos, any of my other posts. Just help spread the word. Let people know about my campaign. That doesn't cost a dime. Even if you can't contribute to the campaign, that right there is priceless, okay? Kester Lyons says, I will definitely make a contribution soon, and everyone should, just by what you did in court. Wish I lived in Cali. You would have my vote. Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people see the value of what I done as a person that represented myself in court, and all of the things that I spoke of. So I thank you very much, Kester, for seeing the value in that. And even though you're not in California, are willing to support my candidacy and getting elected. And even if you aren't in California like Kester, you still can make a contribution to the campaign. Caitlyn Jenner, she has donors from all over the country: Arizona, Texas, Wyoming, Montana, Utah, Ohio, Indiana. I've seen all sorts of people donating to our campaign on our website. You know, I'm keeping tabs on all of my foes here in this race. So you out there, wherever you are, if you're in the United States, can make a contribution if you're not in America. But if you're in the United States, then please make a contribution today to help win back the state of California and make a stake a claim for we the people. What's up, Marcus? Thank you for being here. Just running down all these comments and questions really quickly. So thank you for signing in. And I appreciate you, Kester, for signing up. Definitely. And Jack, Republicans suck. Well, I'm a libertarian Republican, so look that up. Left-right paradigm, exactly. We got to get away from that. Put people over political parties. That's what Governor Wildstar is doing. I'm trying to shift everything here and come in, infiltrate the system as an outsider. You know, the political parties really don't have control over what happens with these elections. It's all about the people and who they choose to support as a candidate. You know, that's the one who rises to the top of the crop. So the mainstream media right now is doing that by selecting the candidates that they want you to believe are the only ones that you have to choose from. That's why you only hear them talking about Jenner, Cox, Faulkner, and I don't know who else. But after that, who do you have? If you expand the list of candidates to say, let's say the top 10, and I actually shared a tweet about this on my Twitter, so follow me on Twitter as well. But yeah, I shared a tweet saying, hey, who would be your top 10 candidates looking at this picture? And I shared a picture of all of the candidates. Let me see if I can find that really quickly. But it's interesting because nobody responded. You would think that the media would have even played on that, but they're not even talking about it. You know what I'm saying? So why is that? And that's because they don't want more people to know about my campaign and what I'm doing to contest against these so-called front runners and Gavin Newsom. All right, so check this out. Here's the picture right here. Okay, so as you can see, you got me right here, Nickolas Wildstar, and the Newsom recall candidates. You got all these guys. Adam Papagan, had him on my show, Black Side of Liberty. Be sure to check out that interview because that'll give you an idea of the mindset of the majority of the people that you have running in this recall election, okay? Including this Kevin Paffrath guy. He's trying to make it seem like he got good intentions. The guy, trust me, is a schmuck. You're a schmuck. All of these people are schmucks. The majority of them have declined debates, okay? So while we're talking about research and everybody doing your homework, has anybody seen any of the debates that the recall candidates have been in? Because there's been, to my knowledge, about 5 or 6, and I've been involved in each and every one. You don't hear the mainstream media talking about the debates because none of the people that they're calling front runners like Jenner or Cox or any of those people are in a race. Not even Jeff Hewitt. All of you people that love libertarian Jeff Hewitt and stuck on party loyalism, fuck Jeff Hewitt. I'm not voting for Jeff Hewitt for governor of California. You shouldn't vote for Jeff Hewitt for governor of California. If Jeff Hewitt wanted to run and be governor of California, he would show up at the debates to talk about why he should be governor of California. Wouldn't you agree? People of California, why would you vote for any of these people that refuse to present their candidate or present their campaign ideas on a platform against other candidates to be contested by other candidates? This is probably the only guy I give credit to, my man Fuji, who's been fighting a good fight alongside me for about the past 5-6 years, for what I can remember. But Fuji's got a good heart. He still toes the line with the party, trying to make everybody happy and all of that good stuff. It's to me, it's about sticking to the book. I'm not trying to make everybody happy. All I need to do is stay true to my oath of office to uphold the United States Constitution. Now, everything else, all of the politics, if it doesn't fall and if it, for any reason, violates someone's constitutional rights, you can't do it. Okay? And as much as you have these candidates out there campaigning, making promises, they're making unconstitutional promises. And it's just going to do nothing but put us back in the same situation that we're in. Nothing's going to get better, period. So if you really, really, truly want to get down to the bottom of it, and attack the root cause of all of these issues, it starts first with these people upholding their constitutional oath. All right? The Constitution, let me break this down for you people that may not understand. It does not tell you what you can and cannot do. It is not the rule book for you. It is not the constructs of life for your life. Okay? Let me see if I can find it. This is the United States Constitution, okay? It's this small. Mine is raggedy because it's been in my pocket for quite a long time. I think I got this from my Ron Paul convention back in like 2012. But I've had it ever since, okay? We the people, pocket Constitution right there, okay? I hand them out at events. If you're at the Fresno Gun Show this weekend in Fresno, Saturday and Sunday, Juneteenth Day and Father's Day, I will be there from 9 a.m. until close, passing out pocket constitutions. But in this book, it breaks down about how government should work. All of your rights as an individual that government should respect and protect and never violate. Okay? That's what this is for. It's a rule book for them and to inform you of how they're supposed to work. So when you have to argue about your constitutional rights to people that should know how this works, like, police officers and judges and politicians, then they're doing a disservice because they're the ones that are sworn to uphold this, not you. You have tons of rights and liberties and freedoms that are outside of this book of rules and regulations as to how your government should operate. So always keep that in mind when we talk about Constitution and constitutional rights or whatever the case may be. Don't know if you heard of Kwame Brown go on the show, it would expose your platform. Kwame don't know me, man. I mean, none of these people are really gonna do anything to help me out until I reach their level. That's how it is. I've reached out to tons of podcasters and people that we think of the community would be interested in providing an opportunity for people such as myself to be heard by more people. But it's all about status, man. If I had $100 million, in campaign funds and was all over the news and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to get on this show. And when it comes to reaching out, these people don't really make themselves accessible. They don't have like an email address or a phone number where you can just call them up and say, hey, what's up, Kwame? It's Nickolas Wildstar. I know you've never heard of me before, but I'm a freedom fighter out here in California running for governor. Put me on your show. So if you want to contact him, put the word in his ear, put a little pressure on him, Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, Charlemagne the God, or whoever, I don't care. Contact whoever you think should be giving me an opportunity to be heard by more people and see if they're willing to follow through on doing so, okay? But in the meantime, I do appreciate you being here, taking advantage of my platform and all of what I'm trying to do to provide a larger, public space for us to share this information and keep each other in the know. So he's just talking like you. Is free for everyone to eat. You have nothing to lose. Hey, that'll be cool, man. I've reached out. We'll see what happens. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Sometimes, you send an email or you DM somebody and it get lost in the ether. Shit. What was his name? What's the guy, the singer? He just found out that Facebook has like a different area for people that send you a DM that's not your friend or whatever, So yeah, there's a lot of people that still are not really tech savvy, still trying to figure out how their social media works. Some of them don't even work their social media themselves. So I handle all my social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. So if I'm not answering all of your comments or, answering all of your inbox messages in a timely manner, that's why, because I'm juggling all of this shit on my own. I don't have a crew of people that I'm paying a salary to manage all of these communications for me. These people do, even some of these candidates, while you're thinking you're talking to the candidate, nah, you speaking to some, Stafford. It's handling all of their Instagram inbox messages and comments and all of that other stuff. So yeah, man, if you want to help me in that effort, then please, like I said, contact them yourself, spread the word. You're right. It definitely couldn't hurt. So do your due diligence and I'll definitely do mine. But in the meantime, like I said, I do appreciate all of you being here to talk with me more on the Governor Wildstar YouTube channel or Facebook, wherever you're watching. Please share. Sharing is caring. It's free of charge. Okay. And the mainstream media is going to piggyback off of the buzz that we create and the news that we create in the community. So if they can make videos viral of, black people getting beat and, protests and all of this other shit and conflicts between the right and the left, if we can make all of that viral, then we can make information like this viral. We should. Like Kevin Hart said about social media, it's pretty much a gift and a curse, because while we could be using this to share good information, to enlighten each other and lift each other's spirits, we're too busy gravitating towards the negativity and the controversial information that keeps us divided instead of united. That's what I want to do. I want to unite the people of California and hopefully in return, unite the people of America. We need to improve our interstate relationships as well. Fuck Zuckerberg. No, you can't use another brick wall. Straight up. But yes, thank you very much for your support, Kester, Jack, Marcus, Peter, Tom, Shaw, all of you guys, Cade, Martha, Lady Wildstar in the house, all of you guys that drop comments during the broadcast. I truly appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Please definitely be sure to subscribe. Like I said, hit the logo in the corner and you can connect with me, because I'll be dropping these videos more in the future and definitely want you to stay tuned. So in the meantime, long live liberty, y'all. I'm up out of here. Peace.